Hey, what's up guys? Exalted here, and welcome to the ultimate guide to winning professional Fortnite scrims. Now the reason why I'm making this video is because just a couple of days ago, Arena mode has come out in Fortnite, and players are grinding so hard to get to that Champs League. I'm one of them. I'm about 42 points away from the highest division, and in doing so, these champion players and I think some contender players will unlock opportunities to find a position in the $30 million Fortnite tournament that is coming soon. So with that being said, let's get straight into the pro tips. So for the first portion of this video, I'm going to be talking about rotation. Rotation is the most important part when it comes to a scrim. One wrong move can get you killed almost immediately, and if you do everything correctly, you will come out with that sweet victory royale. So there are three different questions that people ask when they are rotating in late game scrims or just rotating in general. Number one, how am I going to rotate? Am I going to run there? Am I going to launch pad there? Am I going to rift there? You can do hamster balls, ATKs, tons of different options. Number two, where am I going to rotate to? Once I get to the zone, am I going to go further into the middle of the zone? Am I going to go to the opposite edge? Am I going to just base up the second I hit the zone? And number three, when do I start my rotation? Now, starting with the most important question, when do I rotate? So rotation is very tricky. Depending on where you are in the circle, certain players will be rotating at different times, but 99% of the time, the average player will be rotating as late as possible. The reason why is because they'll be in their safe place, they know they can't be harmed, and they don't want to leave. They want to stay in that safe place as long as they possibly can so that they can hopefully get an uncontended placement point. But the earlier you rotate, there are a few things that happen. First of all, people that just made it to Circle from rotating late will be basing up and trying to get safe, and zone just closed. And that's exactly when you'll start your next rotation to this next circle. These players are distracted by making sure they're safe. They're distracted by other players that are all around them and near them because everyone rotates late. So my best tip for you is to rotate as early as you possibly can. The second question, where do I rotate to? So up until the 5th zone, I believe, which is the first moving zone, every single time you are in the middle of the circle, you will always get the next circle. So if I'm in, let's just say the first circle in Fortnite, the huge circle that covers about half the map, if you go to the direct center of that big circle, the next zone, aka the second zone / circle, will always include you in it. This works for the second to third zone and the third to fourth and the fourth, but not to the fifth because that is a moving zone. So rotate early. Get to the middle of zones as soon as possible so that you can guarantee safety for the next zone. Now, regarding question 3, how do I rotate? This is when it gets a little bit more interesting. There are a bunch of different ways of rotating. I highly suggest using ATKs and learning how to fly them for the early zones so that you don't get shot during mid-game, because that is the most dangerous part of a scrim. You can use ATKs / quad crashers. The hoverboards are insanely quick at rotating. And you can also use the hamster balls. These are really good rotations for that early and mid game, as you can travel really far distances very quickly. Now, these are very detrimental towards the late game, not quite hamster balls, but ATKs and hoverboards. The reason why is because they're not very mobile. You will either find yourself boosting about 30 miles into the storm and killing yourselves, or not being able to move because they're just not very mobile and there's so much building around. Hamster balls are a completely different story. Now, regarding hamster balls, I highly suggest you guys don't get too good at using them. Epic stated that next patch they will be nerfing them, so you can get shot through the hamster ball next patch. This will be conveniently right before qualifiers for the big $30 million tournament. So if you are a player who makes your entire point base off purely camping hamster balls, I highly suggest you learn some different landing spots and rotations that don't include hamster balls, because they will be completely gone and out of meta within the next update. Alright guys, so let's talk about launch pads and rifts, specifically late game rotations. Now, these two things are used for completely different reasons. The rift is used to delay and stall time so that you can survive till the next placement point. Now, launch pads are much different. You do not use launch pads to delay and stall. You use a launch pad to change your positioning. Now, you can change your positioning between different zones. So you can change it to front of zone, back of zone, side of zone. Or you can also change it to mid ground, low ground, and high ground positioning. So you're going to want to use your launch pad in an effective way where you can either get or lose high ground depending on what's needed, and so you can position yourself in a different place in the zone to further your success in the future of the scrim. So here's an example on screen where you see I have a really nice zone rotation where I get to the very front of the zone, as far away from the back where all the people are fighting. I barely get shot at, and it's really quick. Then I use the rift. I find myself in a very sticky situation where I need to just survive as long as possible. I wanted to get that next placement point, and it obviously worked. So when you're using a rift, there are a few key factors. Try not to drag people with you in the rift. I know sometimes it's not really possible, but try your best, because that just gives them free time as well, which makes it harder for you to get the placement points. Next, you're going to want to make sure that you are over the majority of players. You want to be directly above the most players you can see. Now, this is usually at the back of the moving zone. So most of the time, you're going to want to stay at the very back of the moving zone, above all of the players. Now, the reason why you want to be directly above these players is because if you have ever aimed straight up in the air and shot, you've noticed it is practically impossible because you are constantly turning 180 degrees back and forth. So when you are over a player, you're going to want to rotate in circles to make sure that he does not hit a single shot on you. And as you can see, it obviously is very effective. So now let's go over the pros and cons to low ground, mid ground, and high ground. Now, starting with low ground. Low ground can be very strong during the earlier part of the scrim rotations. This will really help you save on mats because you don't have to worry about players below you, so there's no point in building floors on the ground. So you can save on mats, and you only have to really worry about players above you and to your sides. The biggest pro to low ground is no fall damage and saving mats. Now, when it comes to mid ground in my opinion is the best up until the very end. Mid ground is fantastic because you're not high enough to take fall damage, but you're high enough to avoid natural resources like hills and rocks that could potentially get in your way. I'm sure a lot of you guys have been in a situation where you're on low ground and it suddenly goes up a hill and you can't get through all the building above you and you end up dying to zone. This is the biggest pro to mid ground. Mid ground, like I said, you avoid all the hills, you avoid all the natural resources, but it comes at a cost. You have to worry about players editing you from below you on low ground. You have to worry about players sharing mid ground with you. You also have to worry about the dominant high ground players above you. So you will be going through a lot of mats, but it's at the cost of complete safety. Now, high ground is extremely powerful. The problem with high ground is you will get targeted by players below you. Other players will contest you for high ground pretty frequently, and you also have to reinforce your building so that you do not fall to your death. This means you will be going through a lot of mats, especially if you're constantly build fighting and trying to block players off from your high ground. But the best thing about high ground is all you have to do is look down. There are no players to your right and left. There are no players above you. All you have to do is worry about players below you. You can hopefully get some really easy kills, but at the cost of absolutely shredding your mats to prevent fall damage. Now, a quick tip that I have for you guys when you're on high ground at the very last 1v1 situation. I highly suggest you drop down. The player on low ground will just be completely focused on shooting you out, wasting your mats. Now, he has a very good protection, I guess I would say. You cannot shoot him through your own building, so he can hide under your building, not take any shots from you, and instead of you jump shotting, he's just going to shoot you out so that you don't have the opportunity because you're so busy using mats. Now, one tip that I have for you guys is if you are in that situation and the opponent has a minigun or just something that will spray you, maybe an RPG, you can place down turrets. The turrets will give your building about 400 HP, I believe. This will get an instant 400 HP. This will make it practically impossible for him to shoot you out. It'll give you a lot of support and a lot of time for you to drop down to get to his level for that final 1v1, or even so that you can start getting some jump shots off on him. So the next thing that I want to go over is going to be attracting attention towards yourself. Shooting and building, rift-to-going, and launch padding will always draw attention to yourself, and it'll let people know where you are. In the clip that you guys were just watching, you noticed that I was hiding behind trees and I wasn't building. I had mats, I could have farmed the trees for mats, but I decided to hide behind the trees because then people wouldn't know that I was there. It ended up working out really, really well for me as someone edited right in front of me and I got a really nice, easy kill on them. If I were to build around that tree, someone would have been like, hey, I know that there is a player there, I'm gonna avoid their direction. Instead, I stayed still, I stayed safe behind the natural cover, I didn't let anybody know where I was, and I got a really easy one pump to that kid's face. Now, whenever you are opening windows and shooting, you are drawing attention to yourself. So what I recommend is 1, switch windows and switch directions constantly. If you open a window and shoot at it, then reset, and then open the exact same window, shoot at it, people are going to know that you are only facing that direction, and that's going to give them a perfect opportunity to break the wall behind you, replace it, and get a really nice edit play on you. So if you guys are going to shoot, constantly move around your 1x1, edit different sides of the windows so that people know that you're aware of your surroundings. Next, when you are shooting out from windows, do not stand right up next to the window. What I suggest you do is stand a couple inches, maybe a foot away from the window so that you can't get sniped from the side. You will get absolutely beamed from people at crazy angles if you are standing right in front of you, right next to your window. Secondly, if you place a pyramid right below you on your floor, you can use that as even more cover. It'll give you a nice right peek through your window, and it'll just overall prevent other people from shooting at you. Finally, when you shoot, like I said, it draws attention to you. So try to only shoot when other people are shooting. Do not be the only person to shoot, or everyone will turn their heads and look and see if they can get a kill on you. If you see an opponent below you is getting targeted really, really hard, make sure to join in on that and see if you can get a kill. But that is one of the only times that I suggest shooting recklessly for long periods of time. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I hope you learned something from this video. If there were any tips that I missed out on, make sure you go ahead and let me know in the comments. And if you're new to my channel and you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate if you subscribe to me. I make a lot of advanced tutorials and scrim tips content. On top of that, if you'd like to support me for free, you can go to the Fortnite item shop and type in Exalted. And yeah, thank you everybody so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, guys.